We continue to follow the aftermath of the deadly shooting on Saturday in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood of Pittsburgh. 11 dead, 6 injured, 4 of them police officers. And of course, the massive outpouring of grief in the Jewish community there, across the country, and in the broader community around the world. You see some of the scenes of vigil in Canadian cities, and there will be many more tonight, including one in Toronto to remember particularly Joyce Fienberg, the Canadian who was killed in that shooting on Saturday. She grew up in Toronto. She went to Holy Blossom Synagogue. She was married there and then followed her husband, you see him there, Stephen, to the United States. He died in 2016. Harry Litman is a friend of Joyce Fienberg's. He's a former U.S. attorney and deputy assistant attorney general, but we're speaking in the capacity of friend, and he joins me this morning from Los Angeles. Mr. Litman, it's a pleasure to meet you this morning. I'm very sorry for the circumstances and our deep condolences for your personal loss in this.
Thank you, Heather.
Tell me a little bit about Joyce Fienberg. How did you meet her, number one?
You know, Squirrel Hill is a small and cohesive place. I met her first through Stephen, her husband, who was a world-renowned statistician. And she was very close with both my family, but also even more my in-laws, Canadian Jews as well from Montreal, the Roskis. So, you know, she was a feature at Seder's and Shul and our wedding for many years. She was in synagogue on Saturday. Stephen had died a couple years ago, as you mentioned. And as a wife, one says Kaddish, the prayer for the dead, for 30 days. But she had continued to say it. She just felt that she couldn't quite stop. It didn't feel right. So she was going to Tree of Life twice a day, every day, to say Kaddish for Stephen, who had died. And that's why she was there on Saturday morning.
Just extraordinary. I had read that she was there in synagogue every day for that purpose. Obviously, right. Her love for her husband so strong, and her faith equally strong. What did synagogue mean to her? Do you have a feeling for that?
You know, I do. I didn't think of her through her life as she was Jewish, of course, but not a deeply, observant. It wasn't, I think, as central to her life until Stephen died. Jewish identity was very strong for her, but I think her connection with Tree of Life got very important and reinforced in the wake of her husband's death. She was 75. They've had a long and happy marriage. They have 5 grandchildren. Actually, it's sort of a sober footnote. Her family, some of them are in Paris, and they recently left and moved to Israel because they felt uneasy at the growing waves of anti-Semitism there. So in some ways, she experiences it on both sides of the continent.
Isn't that extraordinary? We've been hearing so many of those stories, people in Paris and France thinking it's no longer safe for them, seeking safe haven. And they're in the United States, which is such a haven itself and a place of openness for the Jewish community. She should be the target of such hate.
Yeah.
The people who have described her, Mr. Litman, have said she was someone warm and generous, the gentlest of people. How did you know her?
Yeah, bingo. I mean, so I knew her. I'm 15 years younger, but she was sort of my parents' generation. So she was one of the people in the room who radiated warmth and kindness. Lovely, lovely person, interested in others more than herself. You could tell. Warm, thoughtful, kind, considerate. Really a lovely person, and it's kind of agonizing and somber to think of her in her final minutes.
At what was supposed to be a place of peace and prayer.
Right.
I'm wondering what you've been reflecting on, not just on your own personal loss and your family connection, but what I heard over and over again on the weekend was people within the Jewish community, not just in Pittsburgh, but elsewhere in the United States, about this whole notion of how this can't happen here and how it has happened here. And for yourself, as a Jewish man in the United States, what questions has this raised for you? What are you reflecting on today?
Yeah, I mean, the most immediate ones have to do with this strangeness and kind of sense of unreality that it happened. This is also my boyhood synagogue, where I went to Hebrew school, where I was bar mitzvah, and I just have such a strong sense of it physically, and there's a discordance to think of someone's bursting in and massacring people. But yes, it also causes some reflection. I certainly grew up feeling extremely secure and safe in the United States. I mean, I still do, and yet there is a sense that there's been a turn toward kind of malevolence and fear. And I don't think of fear directly from the government, and yet I do think that some of the conduct of our president can't help but foment the actions of people who are already unhinged, and there's obviously a fairly small but rabid group of people who are ready to do violence against minorities, and now that includes, or once again, that possibly includes Jews, and it's very sobering and unsettling.
What do you think is the best way to counter that then at this point?
So hard. As you said, I was in law enforcement, and we had a lot of programs to try to promote talk and communication between different faiths. Those things matter with the communities, but you are talking about stray crazies. I don't think that it may well be now, as the president said, that people will have guards posted in front of every synagogue. That seems a shame to me and not the best way to go about it. But rampant shootings by individuals are the hardest things for law enforcement to stop. On the other hand, some of this, the kind of cultural mood has gotten set these last couple of years at the top, and it's lamentable. So I'm voting Democrat.
Mr. Litman, again, a pleasure to have your thoughts. I'm sorry about the circumstances, and you should know, obviously, Jewish geography. It speaks loud and clear right to Montreal and all of the connections therein. But people in Canada thinking of your friend as she was lost on Saturday. Thank you very much.
I've heard from people all over the world. It's been really, really heartening.
Harry Litman.
Thank you.
In Los Angeles. Thank you.